Now that you understand some of the basic concepts of inheritance in object-oriented programming, let's talk about the idea of abstract classes. So when we think of a class type, we assume that our applications will create objects of that type. But in some cases, it's useful to declare classes from which you never intend to instantiate an object. And that's essentially what the keyword abstract means. No instantiation. So that basically means that we can use it as a base class, and these classes cannot instantiate objects, but we can create instances of their base class. And so, for example, in our previous lesson when we wrote the employee object, and we had two derived classes of type full-time and part-time, our employee class is a good candidate for being an abstract class, since we always want the type to be one of our more specific types so that we have access to those particular members. We probably never want anyone to just create a basic employee. And so while abstract classes and making a class abstract do not interfere with, the example of polymorphism, creating lists of a type or creating loops that use a type, we just can't create any objects that are specifically of type employee. They would have to be full-time or part-time. So the purpose of an abstract class is primarily to provide an appropriate base class from which other classes can inherit and thus share a common design, but aren't fully fleshed out, aren't really available for use inside of the program, and really don't make sense when you think about which objects you're going to be able to have instances of. So if we come over to our previous code example and find our employee base class that was coded, we could make this class abstract by placing the abstract keyword in front of the class identifier here on line 9. Now you can build your program and see that there are no errors. Adding this keyword abstract to this particular application does not change anything about the way that it works. However, if a class is declared abstract, you won't be able to create an instance of it. In fact, the compiler will give you an error if you try. For example, if I try to create an instance of employee, just using the variables that I already have declared, you're going to see that this is a syntax error. And it says cannot create an instance of the abstract class or interface employee. So creation and using the object creation statement with abstract classes is a violation of the syntax rules. So when we're talking about abstract classes, right, no instantiation, you cannot create them. It is only for the idea of creating a base class that can be built upon. The opposite of an abstract class in programming is called a concrete class. And so where an abstract class is really seen as incomplete, right, because derived classes must define the missing pieces, a concrete class is instantiatable. So we can create objects and are considered complete. Now that you understand a little bit about abstract classes, in the next lesson we're going to look at abstract methods, which is kind of its own little animal.